My name's Elijah Ghaffari. The name of my farm is Magnolia Avenue Farms, and I've been farming for the better part of a decade and farming at this site for about 5 years. The soil when we first started farming was very depleted, very compacted. All of the sites that we farm on are the sites of former houses, so there's a lot of fill dirt. Lots of rocks, just pulling like bucket after bucket of rocks out of the soil, out of the fields. Lots of broken glass, heavy gloves are a must. Many a bloody finger while digging and planting in the fields. And lots of very interesting debris, like all kinds of crazy trash we found when we were first starting to break ground on this field. I think the weirdest thing we found was a trampoline, horseshoes, baby dolls, auto parts, like all kinds of wild stuff. So yeah, it's been a process to build it up from there. My goals for the soil, I think simply, I want to be able to dig in any part of the farm and see just like an explosion of life. I think they say that in a gram of soil there's something like 1 billion microorganisms. So healthy soil is something that you can see, you can smell it, you can feel it. And so I think that just simply I want to be able to really see and feel and touch that. In terms of soil building practices, we want to continue to compost and add organic matter with cover cropping. We want to I'd like to be able to, right now we bring in a lot of compost. Ideally, I would like to be able to produce all the compost that we need to add fertility to the soil on site. For a number of years, we had chickens and we would rotate the chickens through our hoop houses, and so they would add a lot of fertility and manage pests. We want to continue to covering the earth is really important, so not having bare soil visible. Covering the earth with natural mulches, cover crops, living mulches, planting perennials. Those are all important things that we do to prevent erosion, soil erosion, when we have heavy rains or flooding, and as well as keep moisture in the soil when there's a drought. We've started, as of this year, we've officially transitioned away from using any like mechanized tillage. So we are essentially a no-till farm at this point. We rely pretty much exclusively on hand tools to cultivate the soil. And so that's something that we want to continue doing. Just helping nourish the soil as it rebuilds itself and disturbing it as little as possible during that process. I can't really understate the importance of soil health on this farm and on just farms in general. It's literally the foundation that everything else rests on. With conventional farming, you're able to spray, chemicals and other things to deal with pests and diseases, but when you're farming using organic growing practices, you can't do that. So really the best strategy to be able to deal with some of those issues is prevention. Plants aren't that different than people, so people who are well nourished and healthy are better able to fight off sickness, more resilient to stress, and plants are very similar. So a plant that's grown in healthy, nutrient-rich soil is better able to fight off pests and disease. Soil is not inanimate. It is very much alive, and because it's alive, it's important that we respect it and not abuse it. I think that there is, there's the practical side of things where, soil is important because when we work towards increasing our fertility, it increases our yields, and that means more food for our communities. But there's also an emotional and spiritual element to building soil too, which is that it's a relationship. Like, so much of farming is about relationships, about building spaces where relationships can thrive. So whether it's relationships between plants and insects, between plants and soil or other organisms within the soil, between people. So much of farming is about building and cultivating relationships. I can't speak to like the experience of all beginner underserved farmers, but I would imagine, I imagine like that many underserved farmers would probably understand like on an intuitive level, the importance of building healthy relationships and reciprocal relationships with soil. Because when you lack material resources, often you have to lean into your social resources. And so I think underserved farmers understand the importance of relationships and understand that when you have a relationship that's based on reciprocity, it makes everyone more resilient. When we feed the soil feeds us. We need more support for farmer-led research on soil health through programs like the Sustainable Agriculture Research and Education Program and the Farmer to Farmer Education Act. Farmers are constantly experimenting, and with recognition and support for that work, we can continue to grow that work. We need access to technical assistance and outreach for urban farmers to engage in working lands conservation programs that help farmers build soil health in polluted soils. We need security that our land won't be taken away by developers through policies like the Land Access Security and Opportunities Act, which would help provide funding to help farmers afford land, cover closing costs, and down payments. And we need policies like the Justice for Black Farmers Act and the Small Farms Conservation Act to address the legacy of racism and colonization and get land and resources into the hands of Black and Indigenous farmers who have been at the forefront of regenerative agriculture for centuries and continue to lead the way in this field. Increasing support for soil health programs in the Farm Bill would be a big first step in leveling the playing field to make it possible for small farms to survive and thrive.